on the base prior to responding. Alternates, please also state your name if you are attending on behalf of a TAC representative. Jim Bell. Naresh Machivarapu. Amanda Radigan. Jason Kaufman.
Here.
Denise Malone.
Here.
Jamie Brown.
Troy Perry, alternate for Jamie Brown.
Terrence Bailey. John Paul O'Connor. Alex Hansen.
Here.
Jessica Keller.
Here.
Kenny Wilson.
Here.
Michael Giambrone.
Here.
Brian Davis.
Present.
Yash Nagel.
Ira Danglebin for Yash Nagel.
Aaron Hoffman.
Here.
Joyce Kai.
Latoya Bunch here on behalf of Joyce Kai.
Lorraine Cargill.
Vicky Katanis for Lorraine Cargill.
Thomas Hernandez. Anders Vian.
Present.
Kim Delaney.
Here.
Kim Glass Castro. Christopher Marsh.
Here.
Jonathan Rainsvold. Cesar Martinez. Natalie Crowley.
Here.
Mo Alturk. We have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff, are there any changes or modifications to the agenda?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we are moving on to item 1C, a motion to approve the minutes for March 6th, 2024. Are there any changes to the minutes? Any board members? All right, if not, may I please have a motion to adopt the minutes as presented?
So moved.
I'm sorry, I didn't, is that Alex?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, John Paul. Motion by John Paul. Second by Alex. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item 1D, general public comments. Instructions on how to provide public comments are included in the agenda. Staff, have any comments, have any general comments been received?
Yes, Madam Chair. Jeremy Mullins.
Okay, thank you. Jeremy.
Good morning. Thanks for allowing me to speak today. Thanks for allowing me to speak today. Thank you. Not going to take up too much of your time. Just wanted to bring to your attention, if you're already not aware, and invite you all to participate in this amazing Transportation Demand Management Summit that's coming up in late May. So every year, Florida Department of Transportation, the central office of Florida Department of Transportation in association with the Center for Urban Transportation Research from USF, they host this Transportation Demand Management Summit throughout the state of Florida. So this year, we're fortunate enough to have it in Fort Lauderdale, not too far from here, South Florida Commuter Services. We are going to be hosting it in association with those folks. And depending on the source, you may find different definitions of transportation demand management, but generally what you're going to hear is that it's basically providing commuting options for folks and highlighting the value of those options. And those options are going to be anything outside of single occupant vehicle trips, which I believe for the most part, this TPA stands behind. Your very own Brian is also going to be on the program. It's still being finalized, but he will be speaking about how folks who look to implement transportation demand management strategies can utilize their MPOs to do so, and how MPOs can also be more proactive in enabling their partners to do so as well. So we're going to leave a stack of these flyers. I hope you can grab one, and hope you all consider participating. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeremy. Staff, are there any other public comments?
Not at this time, but for the record, Jim Bell and Chang Jeng Lan just joined the meeting.
Thank you. All right, so then we're moving on to item 1E, comments from the chair and other member comments. I don't have any comments this morning. Do any members of the board have any comments for the group? Okay, seeing none. At this time, I'd like to invite any TAC member comments not already on the, comments on items not on the agenda. For members participating remotely, please utilize the raised hand feature in the Zoom platform. Are there any Zoom members who wish to make comments?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right, so moving on to item 1F, the TAC liaison report. At this time, I'd like to invite Nathan George to provide an update. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Just give a second to get this up on the screen. All right, well, welcome to April. I'd love to make an April Fool's joke, but we're a few days late for that. So I wanted to give a huge shout out to everybody who participated in Bike Month in the month of March. We had 28 proclamations that were adopted around our region. That was 10 more than we had in the year preceding. So that's a great accomplishment in this region, and want to say a huge congratulations to everybody who participated both in your events and declaring the month of March Florida Bike Month. Wanted to raise to everybody's awareness, the month of April is Distracted Driving Awareness Month. The National Safety Council is putting out a lot of information about that. So take a look at nsc.org and participate there if that's an issue that's important to you. I would encourage you to make it an issue that's important to you if it's not already. Want to highlight for you Safe Streets and Roads for All Roundtable that's going to be held tomorrow here immediately after our Vision Zero Action Committee meeting. So please, if you have not already taken a look at what we're going to be covering there, take a moment to review that. If you have the chance to attend tomorrow, please come. We also have a virtual option, so if you can't make it in person, you can participate. That'll be a great opportunity to hear from partners around the region and here locally. Want to re-emphasize the opportunity to get on the bus. So try out our transportation options here in Palm Beach County with Palm Tran. Valerie Nielsen, our executive director, is one of their transit champions. So I'd encourage you, if you have the opportunity this month, to take part and ride. palmtran.org/rider challenge. Also want to highlight for you an opportunity to showcase your bike-friendly businesses, universities, communities around the region. This is part of Bike Friendly America's program that recognizes and acknowledges how much momentum we're building in the bike movement. So take a look at bikeleague.org/BFA, great opportunity to work with your local partners, businesses, or to nominate your community. It is a pretty intense process, so I will advise you of that, but I would highly encourage folks to pursue that opportunity. I'm going to go a little bit off subject on the Vision 2050. I would expect everybody around this table to have received an email from me yesterday about Vision 2050 projects. So we're trying to set up meetings with each of you to talk about the projects you submitted. If your agency or community did not submit a project, we really need to talk, because we want to make sure that we've captured your ideas and include those in our needs plan. So please do, I highly encourage you to get back to me as soon as possible to get a meeting scheduled. A lot of details are up on our website right now, so you can see the projects that were submitted. So I just encourage everybody around this table, especially, to be focusing there. And we're going to have some new tools rolling out in addition to the transportation survey, probably starting next week. A couple other highlights: the regional transportation plan that we're working on with Miami-Dade and Broward counties is ongoing. You can go there and take a survey to provide your input on that regional plan. That's being conducted through CEFTEC, so ceftec.org to take more, look more at the details there. Safe Streets and Roads for All grants is an ongoing funding opportunity, so take a look at that if you're looking for additional funding. I will point you to the next point, USDOT Grant Navigator, great resource. There's some additional notice of funding opportunities that have been coming out and more that are soon to come. So that's a great resource if you're looking for outside funds. And the last highlight for you is our TPA newsletter. So for some of our newer members on this committee, we have a few folks who have not signed up for our newsletter. It's a great way to stay in tune with everything that's going on here at TPA. So I'd encourage everybody who hasn't already signed up, go to our website, type in newsletter, and then sign up. Just put in your email address and you'll get our regular updates on a regular basis. That concludes the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nathan. Staff, are there any public comments on this item?
No, Madam Chair.
And do any committee members have any comments on the report? Seeing none, we're moving on to action items. Item 2A. Motion to approve. A motion to recommend adoption, amendment number 3 to the TPA's Transportation Improvement Program. So at this time, I would like to invite Andrew Euler, the Deputy Director of Programs, to present this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. So this is our third amendment to our current fiscal year 24 to 28 transportation improvement program. So that's our 5-year federal and state funding toward transportation projects. This is a request for 3 projects. It's 1 change to an existing project and then 2 new projects. And so today, why do we need an amendment? It's adding 2 projects and then it had a cost increase on another project that meets the thresholds. And as a reminder, this only impacts these 3 projects, doesn't impact any other product in the tip. So the 3 products for you, and there's more information in the backup in the letters submitted by FDOT. The first one is I-95 at Boynton Beach Boulevard. This is an interchange project, adds funds for additional scoping items. So it's adding an additional $6.9 million to cover additional scope. And so with this project, the total in the tip right now is going from around 55.7 million to 62.69 million. And so that $6.9 million is going towards bridge reinforcement, wrong way detections on the off ramps. It's also adding rectangular rapid flashing beacons for pedestrians on the I-95 on ramps. And then there's additional resurfacing and some traffic control in relation to that resurfacing that's going to occur. The next one is a new project requested by FDOT, and this is for Lake Avenue at the FEC rail line in Lake Worth Beach. It's adding just a railroad and utilities phase in fiscal year 24 for some crossing rehabilitation. So FEC I mentioned FDOT that needed to do work out there. So this is adding around $157,000 for that work, crossing rehab. And then lastly, it's the North Lake Boulevard, Old Dixie Highway and 10th Street rail crossing on the FEC as well. This is a new product request. This is adding the design funds of $105,000 in fiscal year 2024. So our current fiscal year. And what this is doing is adding signal preemption to prevent vehicles from stopping on or near the tracks. And so it's adding signals to each approach. So what it would do is, what it seems like is that it's going to track whether there's queuing occurring on the roadway. And if it is, it's going to have additional signals to have a stop bars a little bit further back to allow it not to have more queuing in the crossing. So this is a new one that there's just preliminary concept on, but they're seeking design funds to fully design this project. And this is in the Lake Park or Palm Beach area on North Lake. And that's all we have for you. It's just these 3 projects.
Thank you, Andrew. Staff, are there any public comments on this item?
No, Madam Chair.
Do any committee members have any comments? Terrence?
Yes, on that last project at North Lake, has North Palm and Lake Park been communicated with on the scope of the project, or is this going to be a surprise for them?
I don't have the answer right now. I can reach out to FDOT. They may be on the line. Ruth, do you know, or Nathan, if their managers are on that right now?
We can move on, but just as a general, before we amend the tip, the community that's going to be impacted should be coordinated with so that they can come to the meeting, opine. If the scope is not right, before we say, yes, spend the money, we should, that's what this committee is for, to make sure that we get it right the first time so that we don't have a surprise next month where this community comes and says, Gardens had to do it a couple times and so has West Palm. You did this, you didn't talk to us, we don't like it. Now we're gonna have to amend it again because the scope is all wrong. So just as an FYI.
And just for a follow-up on that, I mean, because I understand what you're saying there, and we can get an answer for that about the outreach. And obviously there is the outreach. I'm assuming this one will go through the ERC when it gets into the design process.
Yeah, but if you're not part of that process, it's generally way too late.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, DRC it's halfway designed by the time the community sees it, and making substantive changes, you have to make the change before the scope goes out, before it's gone to the consultants to even contemplate. That's when the heavy work is done.
Understood.
Just following up on that comment, I know Lake Park is here today. Andrews, has your town been notified, or do you know anything about these proposed changes at the intersection of A1A North Lake?
I do not. And we have not been notified as far as I'm aware.
I had a question on those improvements too, because it was the first time hearing it. Kim, do you know if they're part of the quiet zone calculator? Are these improvements associated with the, any sort of association with the North County Quiet Zone calculator?
So I don't think preemption is part of the calculator. There are some other challenges at that grade crossing that are being remedied with additional infrastructure. And so there's coordination underway between the TPA, DOT, FECR, and the town to obtain that additional infrastructure. So it's an anomaly in the system that is a grade crossing that needs some additional investment before a quiet zone can be established. So, but I'm not sure, and it's a great question. I know preemption is something that FRA advocates for because it makes a safer grade crossing. I don't think it plays a role in the calculator, but I'll check just to confirm, because we should know that answer, right? So we're all rail experts at this point.
Any
agreed?
points would help, so.
And more knowledge, right? Because everybody gets lots of phone calls about
Right.
rail infrastructure and what's happening. So
Yeah.
I'll find out the answer to that question.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
I would say that the money is, I mean, there is that other money that's going towards this North Lake Boulevard crossing, right? That's going towards that for quiet zone. So, and this is only design funds right now too. So I'm assuming it's not required for the quiet zones, but does it improve the safety calculation? That's something we can look into.
I'll find out from our
Yeah.
FRA field inspector and provide that info back to the committee so everybody knows what the answer to that is.
Okay. And so then just back to Terrence's point, if staff could provide Lake Park with this information so that they have it, and then the staff has that information so that they can be aware of it and then have the opportunity to directly coordinate. Does that make sense? Okay, great. Do any other board, Terrence, do you still have a comment or are you good? Okay. Any other board member comments at this time? Okay.
Natalie, if I could just offer,
Oh,
because there's
yes.
sorry. So just for clarification, signal preemption, pardon me, is an infrastructure improvement that lets creates awareness. If there's a car that's behind the gates and on the tracks, it delays the closing of the exit gate so the car can clear the tracks. So there's a sidebar question. So that's what signal preemption is. It's a safety improvement that FRA likes to have. The question that I don't know the answer to is, does it count towards the quiet zone calculator? That's an internal resolve.
Thank you, Kim.
And I'm sorry, I had one other question regarding this. It's how funds are allocated, because I believe the town had some other funding priorities that we were interested in having designed. And I don't believe that they've been added to your plan yet. So I just wanted to understand how this became a priority.
Staff,
We
can
have
you
that
address
info.
that question, please?
I'm gonna have to defer to FDOT on that a little more. I'm not sure if, do we have anybody on the line who can?
We have a comment from Yannick Kelly. I'm not sure if that's FDOT or if that's just the.
Unique
general-
Kelly's one of the product managers. She may know the answer to this one. I think this might be Ron Wallace's product. I'm not sure, but if you want to have her speak, that'd be.
Yannick Kelly, you can proceed with your comment.
Hi, for the record, Unique Kelly, FDOT, Office of Portal Development. So I did reach out to Ron Wallace, and I sent him the link to join the meeting. But no, to answer Terrence's comment, he did not coordinate with is it the town of Lake Park? He has not coordinated with them yet, but however, he does plan to. Once we get the project program, that would be his first action item, is to start coordinating. And as far as I think, Mr. Vivian, I don't know if I said that correctly. I think you were wanting to know where the funding came from. Is that what your question was?
That's correct.
second, I am going to tell you. So the funds that we have programmed on this, it's all federal funds, they're SA funds. For safety, they're safety funds.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ruth. Was that the public comment?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I thank you, this DOT staff for providing that information, and it sounds like some type of coordination is going to occur. It sounds like this is a good safety improvement, and it is in the initial design phases. So at this point in time, I'm asking if anybody has any other further comments. Yes, Alex.
I'm just, again, following up on what most people have said. Aren't we then rushing this item? Isn't this premature? Shouldn't we wait for some coordination with the affected municipalities and some sort of blessing from the affected municipalities before it is included in the TIP? I'm just unsure as to whether we should proceed ahead today on this.
Does the TPA staff or does the DOT staff member want to shed any light on the benefit of including this improvement at this stage for design purposes? On why it's an advantage to include it at this time?
Sure. I mean, I think just overall, from a tip perspective, I mean, there's hundreds of products in the work program and the tip, and a lot of these are added moving forward. And really a lot of this outreach occurs once it gets into the tip, right? So they're not going to make any movement on this product really too much before it gets added, right? So, some products do have preliminary outreach. That's all I could really say on that is I think it's going to occur, but it typically happens, once it's programmed to get into the design phase.
Brian,
Right.
did you have any comments?
You wanna-
Yeah, and I'm looking at a very grainy, Brian Rooster, Deputy Director of Multimodal, so I'm looking at a very preliminary sketch. There are a number of intersections throughout Palm Beach County. Many of your communities have two intersections on either side of the FEC railway, which are very closely proximate to one another. And the issue that is attempting to be addressed here is queuing onto the railroad tracks. So that's an immediate safety concern. Thankfully, there are not necessarily a number of instances where we've had a lot of crashes based off of that. There have been some in Palm Beach County, but what we're trying to track, and I think Palm Beach County is doing a really great job of pointing out some of these safety concerns, is the number of instances where the cars are getting stuck on the railroads. And this is a project that will help to alleviate that. So just wanted to put that in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Alex?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's questioning whether the projects may have some merit, but I guess the question is the process more than anything, whether, and I, from my understanding too, these are not programmed until what, next fiscal year. So, I mean, it's not like, okay, if they're ready to start doing work next month and if we don't approve it today, then there's going to be delays on the construction. I mean, it's more of a procedural coordination question as to whether, again, the municipality should be aware, should be giving, again, some sort of blessing to the project before we even include it into the TIP. That's more of the question as opposed to, is this a good project or not? And again, that municipality should be involved in that decision making, I think.
Ruth, do we have a public comment?
Yannick Kelly, you can proceed with your comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the department, this is of safety concern, and it is a safety project. And it's our safety office recommendation that we program the project. This project was a candidate project. So it's a candidate project, and we have funding in fiscal year 2024, and that's why we're amending the tip at this time to include the project. So we can actually start the coordination with the locals, and that we can possibly start designing now rather than waiting later. So it's a safety project, and it's a safety concern for us.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Anders, did you have another comment?
I did. I had two questions. I wanted to ask if the other municipalities that were getting amended today, if they were notified in advance. And I was also going to ask if it would be significantly disruptive if we asked this to be moved to a different meeting until we had time to coordinate on it.
I mean, you can always, staff members, at this time, I'd like to comment. I mean, this sounds like a benefiting safety feature that prevents cars from stopping on the tracks and allows additional time to have that exit gate exit. This is at an early stage in the TIP where the coordination is now occurring. And I think you've heard DOT staff indicate that they will be reaching out. I think the whole idea of coordination is critical, but I think with all of the TIP projects, it's incumbent upon us to review this list and to actively be involved to see what's going on in their jurisdiction. So while I fully agree that, you know, that coordination has to occur at all stages, I think the stage of this project is early enough where the town has opportunity to contact DOT and ask questions. But it sounds like this is a valid project that could even potentially benefit a quiet zone calculator, and it is a safety benefit that the railroad itself advocates for and could potentially save lives. So, you know, in my opinion, while if the jurisdiction has concerns, there's still opportunity to express that. So I think that, you know, that being said, if there's any final comments on this, or if there's any questions, we can discuss. Does anyone have any board member, or does the board members or any committee members have any comments at this time?
Madam Chair, I could make a comment.
Sorry, Vicky, go ahead.
Fine. I mean, if the committee has interest, you could ask DOT to just come in and talk generally about their safety projects throughout the region. I know that throughout Miami-Dade and other sections of the FEC, DOT has put a lot of funding into these intersection improvements for safety purposes, and that there's a real emphasis on improving rail safety in the region because, you know, we have some of the highest rail fatalities in the country. So this is a focus, and you know, DOT might respond to an invite to just give the committee an overview of what they're doing in the region to address safety on the rail corridor.
Thank you, Vicky. Staff, perhaps you could contact DOT to see if at an agenda, upcoming agenda, they would be interested in providing an overview, or if that sort of opportunity could present itself sometime in the future.
If I think that's a good idea, you know, I think also, you know, asking them about so that process they get to when it comes to these requests. You know, we've had other ones that are very similar when it comes to safety funds, such as wrong way driving on the interstate, right? So those are ones where when the funds become available, they're starting to try to get them implemented throughout the state. And so I think this is one of those cases where they have known safety issues and they're trying to, you know, they have it on the list somewhere and they're pushing these once funds become available. So I think that's a good request.
Thank you,
For sure.
staff. Do any other committee members have comments? Yes, Nathan, and oh, I'm sorry, Kwan. Nathan, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to remind the committee that this is a recommendation for approval, so this item will go to the board. So, you know, if this committee decides to take action to the effect that you don't recommend approval of this item, that is still going to be a recommendation to the board, and they have the option to accept or not accept that direction. This is a very small, relatively small amount of money, so I do want to make sure that everybody keeps in context. We're talking about $110,000 of design funds to enhance safety in our region. As FDOT stated, it is funds that they have ready that they can attribute to the design. So I think everybody should keep that in context. So just wanted to make those 2 points.
Thank you, Nathan. Kwan.
I'm pretty sure these improvements will enhance safety at the crossing locations with this amount, I mean, it's not a big amount of money, but I would be interesting to see the performance after these things are implemented. That would just kind of justify why this is a good approach, or there is some other options or better options we can do in terms of benefit cost ratios. So with that said, the safety measures sometimes could be very arbitrary, because the accidents may not happen necessarily. It just could be a potential thing. Again, I would be interested to follow up, because I'm pretty sure there are a lot of similar intersections along the real roadways in the Palm Beach County have similar issues. So I'd like to follow up to see the impacts or any improvements that can be, quantified or presented in a clear understanding manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Quan. Anders, did you have another comment?
Yes, I just wanted to say that given that we were exploring creating quiet zones, I think it would be interesting to us whether this improvement actually benefited them or not, and whether maybe these funds could be used towards something that could help implement quiet zones. So that's kind of why I think we're interested in the scope of this proposal. So that's
So
fine.
it sounds like DOT is going to be contacting the town of Lake Park to have these questions. It sounds like you'll have opportunity directly to work with them on this item, based on what staff provided. So good questions. Okay. Kim.
Thanks. So safety preemption at grade crossings is a federal priority. That is a best practice to improve grade crossing safety. So just preemption as a thing, our impression is it's a really good idea, and we want to do more of that in a region that we know has a lot of struggles with rail safety. So just as an observation, the discussion about the motion has kind of two pieces to it, I think. One is the technical merits of preemption, and our impression based in the practice of this rail safety area is this is a really good idea, and we want to do more of it as a technical observation. The other aspect of the motion is the early coordination that is so important, right, as transportation dollars are expended. And so there's a motion on the floor to approve, I believe, right? We don't have a motion.
No, we do not have a motion yet.
So I'll make a motion. Sorry about that. So I'll make a motion on this one. That would be to move staff recommendation so that the TPA board has clear direction that we as a technical committee think this kind of improvement is a good idea and we don't want to delay that, right? So to move staff recommendation with a request to DOT, that DOT engage in more early discussions with local governments when projects come through the TIP and this agency for approval. Because that seems to be the nuance to this one that I think has created a lot of pause. And it's hard to get lots of early coordination in motion. This type of activity is planning dollars that trigger early coordination with local governments, but it sounds as though the committee would desire that coordination take place even a little bit earlier. And so that would be the other part of my motion, which is approve staff recommendation with a direct request to DOT to please engage in earlier coordination before these items come before us as a committee.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Kim and a second by Jean-Paul. All board member, yes, discussion at this time?
Madam Chair, if I may, if we can add if you discussed having a presentation from FDOT, if we're able to get that part of the motion, that'd be helpful as well.
Yes, Kim, are you willing to amend your motion?
Absolutely.
Thank you,
In
Madam
fact, and I'll add to that, that DOT work collaboratively with FECR and SFRTA for a safety overview presentation that addresses the different types of grade crossing improvements and what's on the ground on both of those corridors, because we tend to hyper focus on the FEC, but we have a very meaningful corridor over on the west side that has lots of activity also. So a broad safety presentation identifying the safety improvements that are on the ground, the safety improvements that are in the pipeline, and other things that we might need with respect to safety to make us the safest rail network that we can.
Okay, John Paul, will you second that? Okay, great. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Just,
Oh.
Aye.
I'm Alex.
No, it's okay.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. That is the one and only action item. So now we are moving on to information items. So it is, we have the draft fiscal year 2025-2026, the Unified Planning Work Program. So at this time, Andrew, you're still up at the podium. Please, can you present this item?
Okay. Thank you again, everyone. So this is the first look at our draft Unified Planning Work Program for fiscal year 2025 and 2026. So it's a 2-year budget of our planning activities. And you'll see this draft come up this month for information and then for recommendation and adoption next month. So as for our TPA required products that we are required to adopt, all 450 metropolitan planning organizations throughout the country adopt these sets of documents. They all have a transportation improvement program. That's our funding of transportation projects over the next 5 years. There's a long-range transportation plan that looks out at least 20 years. There's a public participation plan that details how you carry out the transportation planning process with the public. And then there's the document today, the Unified Planning Work Program. And the Unified Planning Work Program is our 2-year operational plan and budget. So it covers July 1st, the state fiscal year, to June 30th of 2026. And it's really our application for federal grants. So what's included in there, it has to have a deliverable. It has to identify who's accomplishing the activity. So is that staff or consultants? It's required to have completion dates. And then it has to state where the budget's coming from and the funding source. So we use this to seek reimbursements for our activities with federal funds. The UPWP is broken out into multiple tasks. There's 9 total tasks. I wanted to focus a little bit more your attention when you are reviewing this over the next month on those tasks 1 through 6. Those are really ones that have a lot of major planning activities in them. And then there is the administer the agency section. That's more of our day-to-day tasks. We also have transfers to other agencies. Those are the ones where we work with our partners, especially Broward and Miami-Dade, on a regional transportation plan. So that's carried out in that task. And then the last section is all local funds, and it's agency expenditures with local funds. The reason why we have that part separate is because those are ones that are not federally reimbursable. So all the ones above that, tasks 1 through 8, you'll see as the ones that are federally reimbursable. So the funding that's available to us over the next 2 years is about 4.8 million in 25 and then 4.78 million in 26. Most of these funds are federal funds. And so the bulk of them come from the Federal Highway Administration. They're planning funds towards planning activities. Then there's the Federal Transit Administration, FTA funds. It's about 1.5 over 2 years. And then on top of that, we also have additional federal surface transportation block grant funds. So these are the surface transportation funds that we can also use towards projects, but we have some that's in here for planning activities. A lot of that funding does go towards mobility studies or other studies that we partner with for municipalities and other agencies. Then there's a smaller amount of funds, one being 108,000 of state funding to administer the Transportation Disadvantage Program. So we have a local coordinating board that the TPA serves as staff to, and those funds are directed towards that, and we reimburse towards that. And then on top of that, the last one that makes it that last local funding task, the ones that are not reimbursable, is about 300,000 total, and that's a 10 cents per capita towards non-federal reimbursements. So those are items that cannot be reimbursed. A lot of those go towards agency effectiveness. So it could be particular trainings or learning or conferences or workshops that committees and boards go to or staff that may not be reimbursable. It could also be particular things when it comes to how we market the agency. So a lot of federal discretionary grants can only be used towards, for example, the marketing of a certain product, whereas we can't do any branding with federal funds. And then lastly, which I think is an important part to mention, even though you won't see it pop up anywhere that much in the program itself, is the soft match using toll revenue credits. So federal funds, for the most part, require a local match, and typically it's about an 80-20 split. What's unique to Florida, and this goes for all of our federal funds that we're receiving here with our local initiatives and our transportation alternatives program, that match is done at the statewide level. So it's not something that locals are required to contribute to. So with that, there's about $2 million in soft match using what is called toll revenue credits. So that money broken down in a graph, you'll see it for fiscal year 25 and 26. Again, the bulk of these are federal funds. And then a minor amount being that state funding and then local funding near the end. And then the breakdown by categories, there are the multiple tasks, but within each task, you'll see these major categories of expenditures. And so at the top, we have personnel, and then consultants, and then we have direct expenses, travel and training, and then supplies and equipment. So the bulk of those two are personnel, so that's 15 staff members and potentially interns. Then we have consultants. A lot of those are generally planning consultants that we have. We go out to RFPs for those. And the rest are more towards travel and training, and then maintaining the agency when it comes to the building, and then equipment and other expenses that it takes to operate an office. And then at the bottom, separate from those ones that are federally reimbursable, are just what the local funding expenditures are. So in total, again, 4.8 in 25 and then 4.78 in 26. Our timeline for adoption. So this is the first review, just really giving you an overview. And as I mentioned, it'd be good to focus on a lot of those sections, really when it comes to planning activities. That was where I would focus my attention. Obviously, the whole document's nice if you would like to read all that. We go to the board for first review this month. We're looking to receive our comments from the Federal Highway Administration, FTA, and FDOT pretty soon. So after the board meeting, we should be getting those comments in. And then we're going to turn that around and update our document. And then you'll see final review next month for adoption as well by the board on the 16th. Once it gets approved by FDOT and the Federal Highway Administration and FTA, we're then operating under that come July 1st. So the funds will be authorized come June 30th at the latest, and then we'll start operating under that and can start drawing those down for reimbursement at that time. Public input, this is actually one of our largest time periods for public input is during this process for the Unified Planning Work Program. And so it's going to be open for the 2 months. And so this will close once we adopt the document. Okay, that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Staff, are there any public comments on this item?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Do any committee members have comments? Okay, seeing none, I know we'll be seeing this item in the future as it moves along, so stay tuned.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to administrative items. So items 4A and C are informational only. There's no staff presentation unless requested by a committee member. Staff, are there any public comments on these items?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Our next TAC meeting is scheduled for May 1st. At this time, our committee meeting is adjourned.